Hello, and welcome back to the second episode of the Bright Light Show. I'm your host, Diane Sylvester, and my background is wow, I've been a hypnotherapist, I've been an energy healer in Los Angeles. That was the 90s. And then I've had a metaphysical bookstore in a vortex of Ojai, California for 12 years. And I've also been in the show business industry. I was a casting director, and I've done a lot of things. And I've met a lot of really cool people. And my next guest here, second guest on the show, wow, you just wait for it. Strap in your seatbelt because this is a high octane individual. She's a really dear friend. I've known her for quite some time. She is a working psychic. Now she's a working psychic, but her resume includes 35 years in the motion picture industry as a costume designer and also an international tour guide. She's been verified and tested, and I don't exactly know how they check psychics, but she's been checked. Not to mention, she's an incredible human who fights a lot for other people's rights. Of course, she's an Aquarius. Well, I think I've said enough. I'm going to let her talk for herself. Miss Sally Rice is in the house. Hi, Sally.
Hello, Diane. It's so good to see you. I love you so much. Our background, the root system is just glorious with all these wonderful memories. And I'm just honored to be here with you today. And I love your background, all that beautiful metaphysical energy that you've got in your house. I remember that from your house in Ojai as well. I'm glad to see you're still vibrating this energy.
Well, you now live in Costa Rica with monkeys, right?
I do. I live deep in the jungle of Costa Rica.
And you work all the time as a professional psychic. That is how you make your money. And see, that's what the point of this show is to really bring out people who are working professionals, because we tend to like hide in caves, right? And be very separate. And now we're into this new era where it's about waking up and everybody waking up. And I'm all about like everybody can access their psychic abilities and everybody can do healing work. You yourself and a lot of my friends were born like dialed in and denied it. So do you mind just spending a minute and talking about what it was like to, because you have all five clairs. You have clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, you're a medium. You're like all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you got it all going on. But it wasn't always that way, right? I mean, there were times when you shut it down. I mean, talk to me about you.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. I was born with a full memory of my past lives, of my soul contract. My very first memory, and when you said, oh, let's just go back to the roots of it, I actually have a little kind of panic attack. Just go, oh yeah, those days. Oh. Okay, so when I was, my very, very first memory, I was 6 months old. I was sitting on the wooden floor in the dining room in my diaper. I knew I couldn't walk. I'm guessing because I could sit up, so 6 months. And I saw my mother walking down the stairs. And I remember in that precise moment, I had been contemplating the meaning of why I incarnated to this incarnation known as Sally, where I was Sally, and knowing and being hyper aware of what I came to do with my mother, and that our soul contract was locked in, and I was excited, we were going to do it. And then she walked down the stairs, and then I saw the look on her face, and I remember being really upset, like, oh no, oh no, she fell asleep. She's sleepwalking. And I saw this blank look in her face of a human earth walker, that she had no connection to the eternal realm, that she'd forgotten our story. She forgot who she was. She forgot that she was an eternal soul. And I was heartbroken. I was not only heartbroken, I was mad at her for forgetting. And that was my very first memory. But I did not stop talking to my family about the spirit world because they were everywhere. Not only my memory was intact, but I saw spirits all the time. That was normal for me. And I spoke about it when I was 5. Now, mind you, let me just add that both my mother and my father, sleepwalkers, were atheists. Okay. Now I know they weren't atheists originally because I remember the soul contract, but eventually they became atheists, forgot everything. My father was an architect engineer. My mother was a school teacher. She taught the physically handicapped, challenged children. So she was very dedicated as a teacher, but there was no room for the psychic world. They would have nothing to do with it. So when I was 4.5 years old, my mother violently threw me into the car because she had it. And she drove me down to the Church of the Lighted Window on the end of the block in La Cañada, California. She grabbed me out of the car, pulled me by my arm, and she took me into the minister, priest, whatever he was. And she literally just left me. She said, I've had it. I can't deal with her. You take her. All she talks about are spirits. And she's crazy. So it was not fun growing up in that family. My parents eventually got divorced and blah, blah, blah. And my dad disappeared and my mom went her way, blah, blah. But anyway, the point is that coming into a family of non-believers and believing my whole life, that was not very fun. But it wasn't until I was 51 years old, I had gone on a journey to Costa Rica because my daughter told me I should go visit. It was a 10-day holiday. I had a little tiny backpack. I was coming just to visit. I had spent 35 years as a costume designer. I was happy doing that. But I came and I was walking down this little road in the jungle of Costa Rica. And I'm like, I got to get out of here and go back to Hollywood. Like, this is not my thing. I got to get out of here. And Spirit in my left ear, because he always talks to me in my left ear, said, you're not leaving. You're here to do the work. And I'm like, the work? What are you talking about? Long story short, that was in 2011, August 23rd. I did not leave Costa Rica ever again. Spirit grabbed me hook, line, and sinker and threw me into this new world where I was forced to face my gifts and talents. So whether you like it or not, you can go kicking and screaming. You cannot change your soul contract. You came here to do the work. Spirit will put you on track and make you do the work, whether you like it or not. You can't mess up your life. You will get there eventually. Even if you think you should go south or north for a time, you'll be put back on track. So thanks, Spirit, for telling me you're coming to do the work. And so now I live in Costa Rica in the middle of the jungle, and that's all I do is psychic readings. And I love it more than anything, even though I took about 40 years in between to do other things. However, let me just add that even while I was doing those other things, I was always giving free readings on the side to people because they knew I was psychic, and I was just like, okay, but I never asked for any money. I never got paid for it. And of course, I did not tell the director I worked for 25 years that I was a psychic because he was a very strong Christian and believed that this work was of the devil. So I was like, zippy, zippy on that one. But now that I'm not doing that, I'm like, hell, I don't care. So that's the story.
Yahoo! Wow. What a ride.
Yeah.
What a
So
ride. Let's talk about one other really quick little thing that you did. So you were also a tour guide, right?
yes,
And
that was
so do you think in terms of soul contracts that was because you wanted to see the world?
Oh no, absolutely 100%. Because let me tell you this one, you're going to blow your socks off. Okay, so I went to live in Italy as an exchange student when I was 18 years old to spend 1 year in college in Europe. But I got wrangled because part of my soul contract into becoming a tour guide. I'm going to skip all the details of that. However, when I was 19 and a half, almost 20, I found myself in Egypt inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. And I was with the group. And I remember specifically sitting in the pyramid, and the tour guide was pointing to some of the hieroglyphs on the wall of the Great Pyramid. And he was talking about 2024 and 2025. And about it being a very big crisis time for the planet and that something would happen. And I remember being 19 and looking at that hieroglyphic and getting the download going, yes, that is the time. That is the time. So I got a message from Spirit, a download when I was 19 about something that was going to happen this year and next year that is finally coming to pass. And I also was given that same download when I was 4.5 years old, riding in the back of my parents' car, driving from Los Angeles to Redlands, California for Thanksgiving. And Spirit gave me the very same download. And they said, you better get out of here. This is not safe. You need to leave. And I got a download when I was 4.5 about this time that we're in right now. So is it part of the soul?
Wait, hold on. Yes. I'm getting messages that my internet is unstable. And I find that interesting because I've never seen that message before. It's right when you're giving people exactly what they want to hear. So I don't know. Let's bring you back. Give us the nugget of what you got, because clearly that's more important to everybody than anything else they want to hear in this episode is what's coming right now. What did you hear?
Okay. So we're gearing up. I do not want to give specific details that I could have my wires crossed. Let me just say this. Multiple times in my life growing up, I was shown this period of time that we're in right now, specifically 2024 and 2025. Okay. So I'm just going to say this. By March of next year, everyone listening to this broadcast might make it a priority to be exactly where you want to be on the planet, because in March of next year, the way things are going, you want to make sure that you're kind of hunkered down and where you want to be, because you might not have the freedom and flexibility to move. Okay. So things are happening right now that are transformational in the biggest sense of the word. You hear the little, breadcrumbs by people along the way, the shift, the transition, the great awakening, age of Aquarius, all of these little catchphrases about this time, but it really is this time. It's like this year and next year is when people have to do the work they came here to really do, because we're in the eye of the hurricane right now. So buckle up. Make sure you're on target and on task for what you came to do here. And if you feel like your life is cray-cray and the rug is being pulled out from under you, it is because it is. And the spirit world that we are part of, we're like little fish swimming in the sea saying, I have control over the currents. No, you don't. You're swimming in the ocean. Let the ocean be in charge. So things are stirring up right now. So make sure you're consciously aware of it so you're prepared to be proactive and not a victim of circumstances.
Okay, so let's be specific. And we are going to do part 1 and part 2 with you. So we're gonna spend a little more time on this, and then in our second section, we want to talk about you dying and coming back, because
yeah,
are really interested in that too. So I mean, we could talk about loads of things, but we're gonna stay where we are.
It doesn't exist.
Let's go. That's that. We'll leave that for part 2. Sorry for bringing that up. I'm a Gemini. We're just gonna go all over ADD land. But so let's bring it back, because that got really heavy, right? Okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, don't be sorry. The truth is the truth.
I can't help it.
Talk about what. No. Before people go all cray themselves and go, oh my God, Chicken Little, right? The sky is falling.
Well,
let's talk about. Well, wait. The world as we know it is changing. That's a true fact. Okay, fine. And that's the way you see it. And that's what you've been warned about. But let's talk about the individual and what tips and tricks, how to get through this time with grace and ease as much as possible. Like, what would you tell a person listening to it? Let's say they're a beginner. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. You just scared them. So it's like, what are they supposed to do? It's like, oh my God, what am I doing? So what do people do that aren't on your level of comprehension of the universe and how it works? They're living their everyday lives, and they want to know how to get through 23, 24, 24, 25 as elegantly as possible, or to grow up spiritually, or get the program, because we all have a GPS system, although most people ignore it.
Perfect.
And that's the point of this show. And that's why this show is launching at exactly this time, because my mission and Soul Centered's mission has always been everyone's intuitive, everyone can access healing
Yes,
energy.
they are.
It's like it's right there. Some people are born dialed in, and some people have to learn. It's just like music prodigies. Like some kids, they just 2 years old, they're playing Beethoven. Most people aren't Beethoven. You're a Beethoven 2 year old. Okay, that's you. But most people, they can take piano lessons and they can learn how to play Beethoven. They may not, some people get great, some people don't, and some people come in dialed in. You came in dialed in as, we'll call you a messenger. So you're a messenger and you're giving the message. So with the few minutes that we have left before we end this episode, talk to people from a place of love and healing, and how do they do it?
Right. Okay. So perfect. I'm so glad you said the GPS. So this is the time of the awakening. This is the time of the shift, and we're going to really encapsulate on these next 2 years, this year and the next year, as being sort of when we're really going to get active. This is not to bring in fear, worry, or doubt. We don't want to do that. That is using the lower self, jumping right into fear for what we don't know as being upon us. This is what's happening, and this is how every individual can move forward right now. Number one, everyone with a pulse is going to be compelled, whether you like it or not, to activate your heart space. Number one, you're going to find it internally nagging at you, like what I call, and I wrote in one of my blog posts, is spiritual itch. It's like a mosquito bite you can't find where that itch is and you can't get to it, but it's bothering you. On paper, your life looks great, but something feels not right. Okay, what that is, spiritual itch, is the craving that your heart has, your soul, your GPS, internal mechanism that you were born with, that's starting to activate. It's like the flower that's starting to blossom. It doesn't need to think about how to blossom. It just begins to unfold. That's what's happening. We are unfolding as spiritual beings. So what that means is our brain, that does not know anything about this, because our brain, we have a brain, but we are not our brain. Our brain is for, ooh, where did I leave my keys? Oh, remember to get bananas in the morning. You need them. Oh, remember to turn off the iron. I think I left it on. Or how do I assemble that machine from IKEA? Okay, good things to use the brain for. But in terms of where are we going with my humanity, what's happening to me tomorrow, the brain can never answer that. It does not know. It is not programmed to do that. So what people are going to be feeling is, I feel my heart space being activated. I feel a craving inside of here that I need to address. So we're going to switch from being mental beings to heart-centered beings. And it's going to happen whether you like it or not, because it's in our DNA to grow this way, in the same way that, we have an appendix, but do we really need it? We also are losing one of our fingers because we won't need it 10,000 years from now. Our body is morphing. Our ability with psychic abilities is unfolding, is activated, because we are coded in the DNA structure for humanity to activate our psychic abilities now. So people will be feeling it. These activations of being heart-centered as opposed to mind-centered, brain is shutting down, using it for practical things, like I said, finding your keys, feeling into the heart space, which is the center of your higher self, which is your GPS to the eternal realm. It feels uncomfortable at first. Spiritual activation is a solo journey, and it is sometimes painful, okay? That's what's happening. So people are being called and awakened to this new place in time, and that's really what feels uncomfortable, but it is meant to bring humanity together, to then transcend this idea of separateness, to then return to the understanding of oneness, that we are all one person, one race, one people, one entity, like God, and therefore the new world can birth. But we cannot birth the new world with people feeling separate and thinking that my enemy is over there while these stupid wars keep going on, because believe it or not, we will come to a time where we don't have to have war. But the painful way of getting there is transformational, and that's what's happening.
Excellente. We are at the end of our show, my friend. That was brilliant. Why are you sad? No, no, I
Because
could let you keep
blah, blah,
going.
blah, blah, blah.
No, 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 no. You were channeling. Of course you were channeling. It was brilliant. And it was exactly what needed to be said, encapsulated beautifully. And we could do 60 segments and there'd be still more to learn from you. You're a great teacher. I love you.
I
So
love you.
we are going to end this episode just real quick, and then we're going to bring you back for episode 2 because I'd really love, because people do wonder about life and death, to talk about life and death. I'm going to end this episode with reminding you guys to please support this channel, like and subscribe. Give a little comment. If you have questions, I will have Sally's full biography in the notes, as well as any links. I want to read that article about the itchy heart. So I'm sure that there'll be a link.
Spiritual itch.
The spiritual itch. I know. It was adorable. I just like your awesome sauce. So, also, please do support my website, soulcentered.com, SOULCENTERED.com, which is the carryover from Soul Centered, the store that was in Ojai, which is where Sally and I met. Oh, and by the way, we forgot to mention that we met because you interviewed me because you were also a reporter for the Ojai Valley News. So that's how we met. So it's like spirit works in mysterious ways. We go through all these career changes and we find ourselves. So with that note, Sally, we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.
All right, we'll be right back.